guys didn't know, Goji Center has been in sort of like a feud with another YouTuber. And when I say feud, I mean we have an all-out battle here. We got different channels creating their own monsters slash dinosaurs to see who would win in a fight. And the other YouTuber I'm talking about here is Goji God. We've reacted to some of his videos before, and I kind of consider him a friend of the channel. But today, friendships aside, we gotta decide whose monster, whose dinosaur would win here. Goji Center's monster versus Goji God. Let me know who you got in the comments.
Here on Goji Center HQ, the team was minding our own business, cooking up some upcoming batches of Nightmare Fuel for a future episode when this came up on our radar.
Yeah, that creature right there.
Oh, don't worry. If we hadn't noticed it, plenty of other people would have, and we're all too happy to let us know. Upon digging a little deeper to find out what all the commotion was about, a whole plethora of mentions, comments, and messages, we stumbled across a rather interesting creation.
What was his name?
Hank,
a
monstrous hybrid creation cooked up by the YouTuber Goji Guy and talented artist Valeria_LNX.
Shout out to them too.
Sporting a body covered in toxins, jaws of the dreaded Dunkleosteus, skin and eyes of a chameleon,
that looks
the
like
striking power of a pistol shrimp,
That's why I said monster,
and
not
the
dinosaur.
uncanny survivability of a tardigrade. A truly terrifying creature that was custom built to destroy our Indom 2.0.
Okay.
This animal was conjured by the great minds of the research team of Goji Center.
Indom 3.0 coming soon?
Exterminate all life on Nublar. And it more or less had the potential to cause a global health crisis. This animal minding its own business was pitted against a new amalgamation. A hybrid battle that we never asked for but got dragged into. So fine, after the challenge aimed our way, we have exactly what a lot of you wanted to see. A horrific beast with precisely calibrated abilities to make it as lethal as it could be to bring Hank down.
Okay, so they're
Indominus
upgrading him?
2.0 is hereby upgraded to nothing.
Oh,
no,
nothing?
seriously, we aren't changing anything.
Oh, bet.
What you're looking at is Indom 2.0, but with different skins in Jurassic World Evolution. Cool, right?
We've used them in.
Yep,
we've used them.
Anyways,
Beautiful model.
She's stepping back into the analysis platform.
We've used them on the
today
Kaiju
we'll
Capi channel.
evaluate how our monstrous creature stands up against its new challenger, revealing a few tricks she had up her sleeve all along, and also lay bare a few critical weaknesses in its adversary. Making a hybrid doesn't mean automatically combining the best traits of both with no trade-offs. For every strength you add, you also add weaknesses.
Okay,
because the dinosaurs and creatures in the Jurassic series are real animals,
one that would just destroy everything.
Real-life biology. After all, the Indominus lacks his fantastic ability to change color.
No downsides.
Something out of fantasy, like Godzilla's atomic breath. But because it has similar skin to a cuttlefish,
that's not fantasy, man. Godzilla's real.
Reality. For starters, let's take a look at what we understand to be Hank's composition. Base body frame of a modified Spinosaurus, combining other entire genome sets, such as that of the Indominus, Scorpius Rex, and an entire legion of animals, many from different classes.
Bro, Hank is
at least 20 species, and who knows what else is in there too.
20 species.
Recall what Dr. Wu said to Masrani.
You cannot have an animal with exaggerated.
Hey guys, if you haven't yet, scroll down for me, hit that subscribe button. I appreciate you, hit that like button too.
Spino, and Pistol Shrimp might be used to fighting with their arms, but even more animals on the list didn't. T-Rex, Giga, Dinosuchus, and a bunch of wimpy-armed Abelisaurus. Hank's instincts on how to fight with his arms is going to be messed with. It would be every neural problem the Scorpius Rex had, but amplified. Some additives like the chameleon would actually hinder it. Giving Hank movable eye stalks like the chameleon would mess with its binocular vision from T-Rex genes. And it would compromise its own camouflage from the cuttlefish. Turns out pop culture lied here. Chameleons are not actually masters of disguise, as you may think. A few types can change color to hide, but most of the time these lizards reactively change color to show emotion. Mix in the chaotic mind of the Scorpius on top of everything else, and Hank would be lighting itself up like a neon sign instead of using its camo like the Indominus could. This is precisely why the total number of species in the Indominus 2.0 genome was kept small. See for yourself. Base Indominus had at least 13 total confirmed contributors to its genome. Indom 2.0 only has 9 confirmed. Reducing the number of contributors in turn increases congruity, meaning each individual component works together and lessens split instincts. But is less actually more? We think so. With a quadrupedal stance and lacking raptor-like feet or a sail, the 2.0 would be a lot more stable than the top-heavy and seemingly less balanced.
But so is that,
based on their frames alone, if they get in a wrestling match, the Indom is less likely to go down first. To make this as fair as possible, we're
Just
going
from a
to
look
ignore the
standpoint.
fact that Indom 2.0 can reproduce clones of itself extremely fast via parthenogenesis, thanks to the whiptail lizard, producing an army of these animals.
That's kinda crazy.
We'll keep this to a 1v1 discussion. But even with this, you'll find that it will be getting easier for the Indom. How? Let's compare their jaws.
Easier, he
Despite their
says.
tiny size, shrews use their jaws in a manner not that much different than Tyrannosaurus. With iron-reinforced teeth and a strong bite force, they chomp right through armored exoskeletons, tough
Iron-reinforced
scales,
teeth
and
is
mulch
kinda
bone.
crazy.
Their method of biting down, where
Really
they crunch
crazy.
and thrash, works very well in conjunction with the T-Rex, who did almost the same thing. What about the Dunkleosteus-fueled bite of Hank? It all
The
comes
dunk.
down to bite mechanics. Yes, Dunkleosteus has
That
a
boy's
very
goofy
famous
looking.
bite,
I like
but
him,
it
though.
is an attribute that the internet
He's
and
different.
pop culture have massively flubbed. PSI, or pounds per square inch, is not a very reliable way to measure biting force unless you are very careful about what you're doing. This is why some reported biting forces from this armored fish are as low as 1,000 PSI to an obscenely huge 80,000. These mostly come from bad reporting and not actual research
I don't know
work.
what that means, but
This
it's
is
a
why
big number.
scientists that study how animals use their jaws rely on other measurements, like newtons. This may come as a bummer for most
Newton's
of you,
law.
especially the creators of
Forgot what
Hank,
that is, too,
but
but, you know.
scientific research on the infamous fish
What goes
determined
up
it
must
had a
come
jaw
down?
strength of only around 4 to 7,000
That's gotta be one of them, I don't know.
newtons. That might sound like a lot, but in reality, that's half the force of a great white shark. Instead of chomping down, the dunk was built more for having its mouth open quickly to suction feed on small prey and then bite down quickly to carve into more medium-sized game.
Okay.
The findings of one
So he's
Dunkleosteus
quick
that was
with it.
attacked by another also shows this shearing bite failed to penetrate the thick armor on the fish. Meaning the full-body bony armor of the Indom 2.0, courtesy
That's
from
a
the
good
dwarf
point.
croc, would actually resist
did
a lot
mention
of
he had,
Hank's
like,
bite.
alligator
But why
armor.
not factor in the bite force of the other contributors in Hank's genome, like T-Rex? Surely that will pierce the Indom's hide, right? The bites of the Dunk and the Rex are the perfect example of why animals either bite down hard and crunch, or they can open their mouth wide and bite down exceptionally fast. Can't have both. Trying to put
Why not,
T-Rex
though, man?
force
See, that's what
behind
I'm
the
saying.
Dunk
Make
jaw
one that
can
can just
result
do
in the
everything.
poor thing
I wanna see what it
smashing
would look
its
like.
own face. Okay, but surely those overpowered arms
Dang,
wielded by
Hank.
Hank can punch Indom 2.0 into oblivion with hundreds of tons of force. Well, let's find out. One of Hank's killer apps to try to make it the killer of 2.0
Bro,
is
Hank
one of the
is
most
like the
innocuous
coolest
looking
hybrid that I've
creatures in
seen.
the ocean. Pistol
Other than the
shrimp
short
are an
mouth, not a
entire
big fan of
family of
that.
small crustaceans with a very specialized snapping mechanism in their arms. By cocking back one claw, they are
That's
able
like
to
that. That's
force
the dunk
water
in
into a
them. Or
chamber
no.
and then explosively
Scorpius
convert
Rex.
the captured water into steam to make a bubble that snaps with an average of over
Or
700
both.
newtons of force. An impressive
700
adaptation for
newtons.
both hunting small game and defending
See, I don't know what that
themselves.
means, bro.
Especially given that sound is much stronger underwater than it is in the air.
I graduated
Taking this
from
mechanism
Harvard, not
and its
Princeton.
striking power out of the water and applying this
I'm
to
just
a
kidding.
dinosaur
No, I
will
didn't.
likely work against Hank. Doubling this mechanism in size doesn't double strength. Now Hank has to worry about moving the weight of its hands
Bro,
much
Hank is
faster.
so sick.
And add in that water is nearly
I can't get over
1,000
that.
times denser than air, and any weapon that produces pressure waves is far less powerful in the air than in the water.
Hey, these are
So
some good
up
points,
here,
though.
this snapping or punching will be outright impossible. And if it was, well, not to bore you with the math, but Hank's shrimp-fueled striking
Yeah,
force would
please
be
get
around
that out of my face.
16,145
Big
newtons.
number of newtons.
Remember that the huge forces of the pistol shrimp are not about strength,
What's
but
a
how
newton?
the physics
Somebody
of
tell me in
water
the comments.
work. But let's throw water physics out of the window, and let's say that these hands strike with said hundreds of tons of force. Unless Hank's shoulders are made of vibranium, the blowback would shatter its
Vibranium,
own
though.
arms even if it missed.
So he can't bite
Dinosaur
too hard,
arms
he's gonna
aren't
snap
meant to
his
do
jaw.
these things at this
He
scale.
can't punch
and
too hard.
honestly, you
He's
can't
gonna lose an
expect them
arm.
to. Hank would disarm itself on day one upon
Dang.
using this striking force on
At least he
practically
looks
anything,
cool.
before it grows up large enough to fight the 2.0. So far, we have an animal with a shattered face,
Oof.
broken forearms,
Poor Hank,
self-inflicted
bro.
by the way, and now it's the perfect time we bring up something Hank's
Oh,
creators
no.
may have forgotten about.
Hank's creators. Goshi guy, what are we doing, bro? We gotta make something better, man. We gotta make something better.
Hank had some pretty tough animals in the
You can
genome,
do it.
like the Giga, Indom, and Spino, but none of them are particularly armored nor really resistant to stabs, much less
have
getting
no
a
armor,
sharpened
bro.
metal pole shoved into them. Even if facing against the one-punch man of
Bro,
hybrids, the
it
Indom
all goes
2.0's
downhill
tool
when
use,
Indominus
dexterity, and
starts
grappling
using
would give her
weapons.
plenty of means to strike back, including at range. Recall that the great ape genome and hand augmentations allow the Indom to make use of these effectively and with purpose. But if we're going to stick solely on weapons that aren't laying around on the floor, another one of Hank's defense mechanisms comes into play. In nature, one of the most common defenses and offenses are poison and venom. Hank comes into the fray with a modification to the oil-producing glands it has across its skin, producing a toxin that causes what is technically called intravascular coagulation. This can cause nasty blood clots if in big doses, and one snake, the Russell's viper, even uses it as a chief component in its venom. The problem? Hank got handed the wrong poison for the wrong job. Remember these two? We didn't cover this in the Indominus 2.0's rampage across Isla Nublar, but we didn't forget about Dr. Wu's first hybrid. The Scorpius Rex would be rampant enough to pick a fight against the Indom 2.0, so we'd give our hybrid a hidden edge if it ever went up against another toxic opponent. And boy, did it show up. It's a little-known fact, a favorite food of crocodilians just so happens to be snakes, including highly venomous vipers.
I didn't know that, actually.
Able to section off parts of their bloodstream to avoid circulating the toxins too far with strong antibodies, crocs can tank bite after bite from toxic prey with often little effect.
I mean, it's a snake. I don't feel bad for the snake,
just
but
venomous in their own right, they shrug off most poisons. Their own venom can cause rapid blood coagulation and muscle locking worse than many snakes.
If it's a mouse, I feel bad for the mouse.
They are immune to their own and similar toxic elements called glycoproteins. Add in a hyperactive metabolism that can break down blood clots and purge toxins very quickly, and it's a big pair of reasons why shrews are also known to hunt and kill snakes many times their size. So, in other words, Hank's main defense wouldn't do anything to the Indom 2.0. Blood clots just couldn't affect it enough.
Hank kind of lost everywhere here,
especially since this was sold off as the peak survivability trait that would deter any future opposition against Hank. Tardigrade traits in this case will cause huge drawbacks. Tardigrades are legendary for their ability to survive radiation, heat, and cold when in their dormant state.
I want to see a Goji Center video.
The key to this are the gel-like proteins that surround their cells called CAHS
None of that was right.
This gel can spare the cell from a lot of things. But it can't stop toxins that attack the connections between the cells.
What was that?
And
that was the goofiest looking thing.
This is exactly how the neural toxin in the shrew venom works, in addition to blood clotting. In fact, giving more proteins around the cells just gives more for the venom to work off of. And this is something that can't be averted. Get the tardigrade perks, if any, and you also take their weaknesses. After laying bare the critical weaknesses of Hank, it's now safe to say that without even changing a single thing to the 2.0's genome or lifting a single finger, 2.0 remains undefeated.
2.0 is a savage, man.
Hank's overpowered jaw and hands disarmed itself before it could even step in the fighting ring. He did this to himself.
But he destroyed himself.
However, to the merit of Hank's creators, this is a fantastic design as a monster.
It is. It looks really cool.
With just raw force or some tweaks, Hank could stand his ground against the 2.0 and actually have a good shot at winning.
Hank 2.0
its visible adaptability to swimming and being adept to most terrains, truly horrifying appearance, and malevolent nature
Hank with
is
2Ks
truly
at the end.
something that we at Goji HQ appreciate and would look forward to featuring on the channel again.
That would be
but
sick.
Here on Goji Center, we are not cooking up 3.0 to counter it. 2.0 is lethal enough.
2.0 wins.
Now, though, Indom 2.0 has other problems to worry about. Much bigger problems.
Who is that? Oh, no, that's sick. I don't know who or what in the world that is. Big shout out to both Goji Center and Goji Guy. I like both of their hybrids. Let me know which one of them you like better in the comments. I will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you for watching with me. I love ya. Goodbye.